The Olympics opening ceremony mocked God and Christians, folks. So we all have been talking about this, right? So during the parade down the River Seine, I never pronounced that right, Seine, River Seine. I took German. I didn't take French, sorry, in school. Several scenes were posted, right? We had heavy metal band that played, rock on out. I was all there for that, right? The fire coming out of the windows and the head banging. I'm all for that. Shout out to all the heavy metal headbangers out there. A fashion runway, right? You can't be in France, can't be in Paris, and not talk about fashion. And some of those fashions are off the hook, but where's Paris, right? And when in Paris, do what the Parisians do. There was dancers dancing on a pogo stick, right? Somewhere downtown by the Eiffel Tower. I don't know where they're bouncing around, right? It was fun stuff. Oh yeah. And then there was a scene around the table that looked a lot like Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper. There was something different about it, though. Yeah, but it was with drag queens. Just think about that for a minute. Yeah. Now the creator and the show producer have said that it was a homage, an homage. I'm trying to get my French in. An homage to the Greek god Dionysus, right? The god of wine and revelry, right? That was a big fat blue guy who was painted blue with the big stomach, right? But if you look at a picture of that plateau and you look at a picture of the actual Last Supper painting, it's pretty obvious that they were two. The person in the middle was someone dressed in drag with a blue drag, and they had like a little thing on their head that looked almost like a flame. It was definitely giving Christ-like symbolism, if nothing else and nothing less. And let me just say this as a Christian, a few thoughts here, and I'm going to be frank and honest here. First of all, as I said, it was mocking. It was mocking the Last Supper, and it happens way too much. And you don't have to be a Christian. I'm not telling you. You can be agnostic. You could be atheist. I'm just trying to say, take a walk in my shoes as a Christian for just a minute here. Remember, there was a proclivity in the culture to ridicule anyone who is a Christian, to ridicule chastity, to ridicule people having a faith, to ridicule clean living, to ridicule that which is not hedonistic, YOLO, that is not about get yours, grab the bag, girl, you ain't got to settle for that, making mockery of disciplined living, of people who plan out their lives and live fastidiously and live frugally and live in a very controlled and organized way. That's not always just about self-pleasure and just having fun, particularly if you're young, right? And so I think about the example, not just of this, but I think about the example of quarterback C.J. Stroud, new quarterback, young quarterback, Houston Texans, had a great year this past year. And when they're in the playoffs, he gets interviewed, and he is a staunch young Christian who basically said, I promise God that if I made it to the NFL, I would always give his name the praise. And I don't care who says it. I don't care who's around. I'm going to do that. And in every interview you see him in, particularly during the playoffs, particularly when he has done something incredible and he gets the opportunity, he always says, I just want to thank God. Sit down and thank God for all that he's given me, all that he's done for me. I would not be here if it had not been for the grace and the love of Jesus Christ. And every interview he does that in, when you replay the video online, that part of the interview is always cut. And he's not the only one. There are other athletes, there are other celebrities who, when they give the praise, they're cut. That's one example. The other example is, have you noticed for the mocking that happens with Christians, you don't see similar mocking of Muslims? there seems to be a proclivity in the culture and in our world that says being a Muslim or having an alternative sort of viewpoint or religious feeling, like, being into crystals or being into some higher level of transcendental meditation or some new religion that embraces sort of all things and all people, mysticism and that kind of thing, that is actually given more shrift and more cries and pleas to be accepting of than being a Christian. And I use Muslims because the culture again will say the Muslim faith is a strong faith. They will point to Muslims. People, incorrectly, and I think with prejudice, say, well, being a Muslim means that you're like into jihad and you're into kill. It's a religion of violence and whatnot. You will have even non-Christians. You will have even atheists and agnostics and people who don't believe in anything say that's wrong. We should not be doing that and talking about Muslims in that way. And that's ethnocentric. That's religious bigotry at the highest level. You don't get similar things happening with Christians. And I think it's because in America, we've had freedom of religion so long, and you can go to and from places, either practice a religion or not practice a religion. And it doesn't stop you from getting jobs. It doesn't mean you're persecuted. If you're a Christian, you can live your life here. If you're not a Christian, you can live your life here. The founders were deeply flawed people, but they were right in trying to make sure that separation of church and state, and that's not exactly the term, but you get what I mean, that was important, that your religious life was personal, that it was important, that it was vital. But if you didn't have that, then you are just as good of an American as a person who is. And shout out to JD Vance, who doesn't believe that. But the mocking of Christians really has gotten to a level where Christians are now have their backup. They're now saying we're not going to sit back and allow these kinds of slights to continue on us. That our position and our thoughts, while we don't have to impose them on you, have validity, are not ridiculous, and our way of life and how we choose to lose our life, to live our lives. And so if the Muslim can be given the space to practice and we can look at and support the principles that are beautiful and that we identify with there. And if we could do the same thing with New Age religions and mysticism and cool things that, don't really have as strict of a dogma or as strict of a rule, a strict of a rule lifestyle as Christianity may have, that like we still should be allowed to have our say in the public square and not be censored. And don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about the Fox News thing about, Christmas is against the law now. We can't even say Merry Christmas anymore. We can't even acknowledge the nativity scene on the lawn of the town hall. No, I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is as quick as we are to say the Muslim faith should be protected and the best parts of it should be heralded and not censored, and the best of all the religions, so should the Christian faith. Because there are still a lot of us out here. There's still whole communities of us out here living and doing good work in our community, and we should not be demonized or dismissed or insulted in the public square because of our faith. Now, I'm not crying victim here. I'm not going wham, 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 poor Christians. But I do recognize, as I started to say, that in America, we're very nonchalant about it because we have a free practice of it, or you can choose not to practice it. If you go around the world in places like China and parts of Africa and other places, people are thrown to prison and killed and harmed because they have a Bible. The practice of organized Christianity in some Muslim countries is the sentence is death if you're caught. or in places that are Buddhist, that are, again, peace-loving religions. But if you're a Christian, you could be persecuted for it. I listened to Candace Owens talk on a Don Lemon interview she gave. And while I don't agree with a lot about what Candace Owens says, she did say something that I did agree with. And Don Lemon sort of poo-pooed. And Don Lemon says that he's a Christian, but he laughed at the idea that Christians are persecuted around the world. And, Candace Owens was like, you don't know that? You don't recognize that? And I didn't get as mad as she did, but I understood that Don Lemon is an American through and through. He lives here. He was born and raised here. He gets to practice Christianity the way that he wants to practice it, whether it's at odds with other Christians or not. And that sense of freedom, that sense, it really creates a sense of entitlement, a sense of how I think is okay and is the right way, or it doesn't matter, right? And this opens the door then to have other interpretations or other types of Christianity that doesn't fit the culture's idea of what Christianity should be and can be and must be. That must be canceled. That must be put aside. That must be seen as heretical or something that's not Christian-like. And I just have a problem when the culture is trying to tell Christians what Christianity is. And it's interesting that in this Olympics opening ceremony, for them to say, the show producer and the creator to say, no, this is not the Last Supper, when it's obvious it is. And I hear more people taking their word for it than taking the word of Christians who were offended by it, yours truly included, to be really puzzling and really sad. I'll end this with this. I respect all religions. I don't believe in all religions, but I respect all religions. And if someone's a Muslim and wants to give praise to Allah for their life on national TV, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with the Buddhists or the Hindi expressing their faith and how their faith maybe led them to be successful in life or conquer demons or conquer alcoholism or made them a better husband or a better wife, better father, better mentor, better businessman or woman. Got no problem with that. The problem, though, is that people have that issue with Christians. That if a Christian like, say, C.J. Stroud or other celebrities will say, I thank God that I'm living, that I've been able to achieve this success in life, that through him, I realized my power. I realized my potential. I realized I could be anything I want to be. And he gave me the power and the focus and the discipline to get to where to get to where I am right now. And I could not have done that without him. That is somehow bad. That is somehow not good or not something that should be celebrated. At the very least, it should at least be reported for what it is. That C.J. Stroud and others did say this, and it's how they feel. And so it makes Christians, in conclusion, feel like when someone says that about Christianity and Christ, that's the only reason there's a problem with people saying that. That if somebody has said, I read a book and the book gave me inspiration and made me do this with my life, or if I read an essay and that made me do this with my life, if I joined this group and that's what changed my life, we wouldn't have a problem with it. But we only have a problem with it when somebody says it and Jesus Christ is the center of that discussion and that argument and that position. That's the way I see it.